Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raad Life. Today, I have a guest that I've been wanting to have on for a while, Mayor of Costa Mesa here in Orange County, Katrina Foley, who basically is running for re-election this year in 2020. And I wanted to talk to her about a whole bunch of stuff. She's been on city council for a bit of time, and like I said, she's running for re-election. So she is going to be able to provide an interesting perspective, I think, for Costa Mesa, where it's been, where it's going, and some of the exciting things that they are working on. So I'm going to see if we can get Mayor Foley in here from the waiting room and touch base with her on her campaign and how it's been to be on city council for like. Good morning, good afternoon, Mayor Foley. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
And my pleasure. For those that caught that, we tried to do this interview a little earlier in the day, but good old technology and in the age of COVID, we had to kind of reschedule. So I'm really glad to have you on and that we were able to pull this together. I mentioned when I was introducing you that you have an interesting perspective because you've been on city council for a while and you're running for re-election, and the city has changed, and sort of it's an exciting time, even though the challenges that we are facing right now with COVID, but you guys have actually also been very innovative and very responsive when it came to the crisis that we're kind of going through.
Yeah, so for sure, the city has changed since I was first elected in 2004. That time, really the big controversies of the day were how many trees could we get a project to put in their parking lot, whether or not we would use certain types of trees or native plants in the landscaping medians. I mean, simple stuff, right? And now we're dealing with major life-changing policy making decisions. I mean, literally life and death these last 6 months.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people were super responsive. Like, I was actually very pleasantly surprised when this happened, how quickly people mobilized in the most fundamental ways. Some things dragged, but a lot of the basics people just jumped on. So maybe walk us through a little bit, like when this thing happened, obviously nobody expected it.
Right.
How did you guys mobilize?
Well, we had a little bit of a head start because remember, they wanted to move the cruise ship patients to Costa Mesa to Fairview Development Center.
That's right.
And they were
That's
going to do
right.
some makeshift holding area there. They had no plan. We had many conference calls with the CDC and with the federal government, and they couldn't answer some of the most basic questions, which in fact, droplets. At that time, we had Andrea Marr, who's on our city council. She's an engineer. So she was asking all these questions about droplets, and I had no idea what she was talking about at the time. But now I'm like the expert on droplets, right? Aren't we all?
Yeah.
So we kind of got a head start in that January, February timeframe, really learning about what is COVID-19, how could it impact our community, what do we need to do to prepare. So we were the first city in Orange County of the 34 cities to open up our emergency operations center. We were the first city to issue the mask ordinance. We were the first city to really kind of shut down parks and other places.
Yeah, I remember actually, I completely forgot, but I'm on the board for Project Independence, and we actually have people that are clients of ours that live nearby there. And I remember when this came up on the news, I'm like, oh, I know where that is. And I'm like, really? This is going to require a little bit of, logistics to make this happen. And so you're telling me, like everybody else, like we didn't even know that droplets was a word we're going to basically be talking about all the time now. Like, yeah, pass the bread and here's the droplets. I'm like, it's like, where's the mask?
Yeah.
And so was there any contention? I just want to talk about the mask thing for a minute, because you and I think, we share kind of
That's right.
a hand, that there's a direct connection. Was it fair? You got your mask on you?
Okay. Mask up so that we can open. That's what I say.
You thought I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready there.
I've got several versions. I have a collection now.
I need to get you one from the company I set up. I need to
Yeah,
get you one from TaylorMade Face Mask. You need to go over and
I saw Lucy Dunn has a really beautiful one that you.
Lucy has one of ours, yes, and I do have a bunch. We just put out. I just added some patriotic patterns, and there'll be a bunch of other ones that are coming up this week. But yeah, my treat, because I was really happy to see people like yourself and Lucy, where we really realized that there was a direct connection between that expression of safety, right, and projecting that as what you stand for, and the health and well-being of the economy. Like there was
Right.
a direct connection when people were basically dealing with it like it was a separate entity, unfortunately. And you guys were very, very early on pushing for that. Was there consensus on council? Was it sort of a difficult thing to get to
Uh,
happen?
it was the council voted 6-1 for the masks, and so is overall consensus.
Yeah,
And the city manager issued the order first, and then the council ratified. And then, of course, the governor followed suit, and thereafter the whole state was
right.
required to wear masks, as well as the county of Orange and the health officer. So, we I one of the experiences that I've had during this whole pandemic is that I was invited with hundreds of other mayors to participate in this Bloomberg philanthropy weekly COVID-19 response training.
Okay.
And so I got the benefit of learning about what is COVID-19, what is the public health response, what are things that are happening across America, so that
Mhm.
we could be prepared in advance. What are the things we need to do to help our community to stay safe and to keep our economy open. That's always been what we've been trying to connect the two, because we need to have both a healthy community in terms of our personal health, but also our economic health. And the two
Absolutely.
are just completely intertwined in this particular pandemic.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Katrina. I was going to ask you relevant to that because um, that kind of was a bit of a mess in most places, where it was like, are we on, are we open, are we closed, and I think right now, just in overall, we suffer a lot of doubt and distrust of sources of information. So I noticed that you guys were actually very proactive in how you were putting out your collateral material. You were using social media quite a bit. You were doing things that were very, what would I call them, like visually stimulating to get people to engage. I'm just going to ask this because I think I already know the answer, but that was a conscious strategic decision from you guys, right, to do this?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. It was a combination of, our new city manager, she's been on the job for a year, but she's been through crises before. So she had crisis management experience. We have an emergency operations manager who also, he has really good emergency response experience. And then the lessons that I was learning in terms of crisis management, and what are some tools that you can use to share information quickly with your community, from the Bloomberg program, was invaluable. And one of the things that I learned other mayors were doing, and so I quickly followed suit, is we created a Restore Costa Mesa recovery team. And it was comprised of
Smart.
about 40 business leaders, our nonprofits, our faith-based community, and our city team. And we were really able to engage the community of business community, and as well as our Segerstrom Center for the Arts. We've got the
Yeah,
arts building right here
I
behind me.
see it behind you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had weekly Zoom meetings every Friday for about 2 hours, where we would gather all of the concerns that they were having. What do they need us to do to change the zoning code so they can get outside, or so that they can socially distance? And we were able to move bureaucracy in a way that has never happened before. So the problem is, though, is that now we know it can be done. So some of these
Yeah.
long delays are probably not going to be appreciated anymore.
I remember when like I said, when it first started, and how quickly we just overall as a nation, as a human race, basically adapted to this, because this didn't spare anybody. It was global.
Right.
And that was exactly my second thought. It was like, well, so if we just did this fast. Why the heck does it take so long to do it under normal circumstances? And do you ever get a chance now to put the genie back in the bottle? Because now it's not, this wasn't like where you have a crisis, like even hurricanes, right? I mean, let's say that it's not Katrina. Let's say it's not, you know, like a thing that has a ripple effect that long lasting, right? In your case, it's a very positive ripple effect that's long lasting, right? But yeah, but you know,
I tend to be a bit of a hurricane at times, though.
well, you know what? I don't necessarily personally think that's a bad thing, by the way, right? They can be constructive,
Yes.
but where it doesn't, it's not a weekend. It's not like I just had a little
Right.
debris on the beach, right? This is 6 months almost, and it's likely to be a little longer, where the ripple effects of this are with us. So there have been behavior pattern changes, right? There have been institutional changes of dealing with stuff.
Right.
So
I think to answer your question about whether we put the genie back in the bottle, I actually think many of the changes that we've made in Costa Mesa, allowing restaurants to expand their patio space to
mhm,
some public space, opening up some of our public rights of way, making it easy to get a quick permit for
mhm,
something that you want to do in an event type of permit. We never had this permit system before. I don't think that goes away. I think some of the restaurants that are sort of makeshift in what, they can't really keep it like that because it's not
right,
very nice,
right,
that will probably go by the wayside and they'll go back inside. But for some spaces, I mean, they've adapted. I'll give you an example. Memphis.
yeah,
I just went to Memphis for brunch. It's one of our favorite breakfast places. I have my own little concoction that I get there. It's the crab cake Benedict. It's not on the
ooh,
menu.
that's good,
And we've been going there for more than 20 years.
right,
So heartbreaking because I know Dan Bradley, the owner. He's a neighbor. He lives in Costa Mesa. It's family owned. Heartbreaking when they had to shut down. And they have little kids and everything. So
yeah,
when they were able to open up their back and take a little piece of their gravel parking lot and
mhm.
expand, and it's turned out beautiful. They put up a nice little fence and picnic tables with umbrellas. I hope that stays. I want that to stay there because that's a benefit and a value, not just to the business, but to the community.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, thank you for answering it this way because I was hoping you would. Like, I agree with you 100%. There has been a lot of happy accidents, if you will, that have come out of this. And when I look at what happened in Laguna Beach, for example, where they closed that forest and basically all of a sudden it's a pedestrian walkway. And I remember I live in San Clemente, and the back and forth that we would like just about activating the paseos behind Del Mar, and now we see, and so in many ways good and bad, and in some definitely good.
Yeah,
I think COVID, we will look back at as having accelerated a process that we were maybe wanting to be on
right.
out of necessity. And I don't think we should put those back in the bottle. Now, it's going to be interesting, for example, now that you've opened up delivery with alcohol sales, does that go back into the bottle? I don't think so. Probably not. Too much money involved, right? So
But
with
that
that,
one does have its consequences, and we have to be really careful about that
exactly.
one because of DUIs. People were staying home, so it's probably okay. But when I saw the governor pass that order and allowed that, so my family, on my husband's side, they're from Louisiana,
Hmm.
and so we always tease how you can get a drive up, pina colada
Yep.
at the drive through and,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
drive away with your pina colada. It's very
Open
weird.
container. I'm driving around with an open
Yeah.
container. Yeah.
So I worry, certainly about DUIs. And so we have to make sure to manage that well.
Yeah, and like anything else that's a first. I mean, I have clients that are basically in the legal profession, and just what's happening with just court cases and civil cases versus criminal cases. I mean, there's certain things that we will come out of this, and we will have developed probably an alternative way of doing things. So with that in mind,
At
with
my
the
old law firm has done the same. I mean,
yeah,
we've pivoted, we downsized during this process, and have gone online. And now I'm doing all my depositions online, and
right.
it's kind of nice.
So to that point, as a business owner, I mean, that's what happens now with the when we have so much real estate. I mean, before COVID, commercial real estate was suffering. the impact of online sales, things of that nature. People had to really get creative in basically drawing in foot traffic to their businesses. And some of them that are larger, that are in your city, have the machinery and the mechanisms and the manpower to do that. Some of the smaller ones don't. And, like I know Shaheen at the lab, for example, they do their own thing, even though it's a one-off versus a chain. And so some were lucky, some were not. We now are faced with another layer to this, which is the fact that we have found out that we don't need as much square footage to conduct a business. Right. So that, to your point, maybe now we need, and I'm going to let you tell us about the general plan and any of that stuff that's happening at the city level, because from a visioning perspective, I would think that now we have a little bit more clarity about what we're facing and what we need to basically tackle, right? When it comes to maybe adaptively reusing or repurposing some real estate that we have.
Yeah, I think it's a little premature for us to decide that, because everybody's forced to still be at home. There's plenty of parents that are working from home that would not want to be working from home if they had a choice. It's very hard. I know, as a parent of two now college age sons, when they were young, I used to bring them to the office with me. I'd have a little pack and play, but I was my own, business owner, right, and I could do that. I'm my own boss. So I know that right now working at home is forced on many employees. And so we'll have to wait and see what really happens. We are social animals. Everyone wants to be together. I don't think the conference rooms go away. I don't think the need to have spaces where people gather go away. It's just going to be paused for a bit of time. But commercial real estate is going to change for sure, because a good number of companies will want to save money, and they will have everyone working remotely, because now they're all set up to. I mean, right, they have the infrastructure now. They were forced to develop it in their firms. So I do think it'll change, but maybe that's a better way for us to get to more mixed retail, housing, office. I've always been a fan of mixed use. We're starting to really develop a lot of mixed use in the Segerstrom Center for the Arts area and the South Coast Metro area. We've got mixed use coming before us above the 405 freeway. We have some pseudo mixed use over on Placentia on the west side. Mm-hmm. It's not real. It's just it was a way to get more square footage for the housing. It's right. When I'm saying mixed use, I mean where you don't have to get in your car to go to work, because right. Your work is there and all the amenities there.
So it's work live basically.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, I understand you have a full house right now.
I do. I've got some uses of my own.
so of what you speak when you're talking about this. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to? You're running for re-election, so what are you looking forward to in your next term that is sort of exciting for Costa Mesa? I've seen a lot of changes. I've been in South County since '87, and I pretty much gave up my office a long time ago, and my office is the Center Club, basically.
Okay.
Right, pretty much.
Right there in the heart of it.
I'm right there, and I've seen a lot of changes. To locations changing hands, to repurposing, right? So share with us some of the stuff that you're excited about for Costa Mesa.
Well, we've done so much just in the last 2 years. It's been an exciting 2 years. Before COVID, we were on a roll. We built a new fire station. We built a new library, state-of-the-art library, beautiful library. We were in construction on a new community center, which we've continued on. It opens in the end of September. I'm excited about that. We're naming it after our first woman mayor, Norma Herzog. So that's
very cool.
Fun. We also have new playgrounds going in. We were set to have a whole variety of multi-purpose trail systems come in, and we were working on that. That got, the CIP budget got killed because South Coast Plaza closed. It's a third of our budget.
Sure.
And so we had to pull back a little bit, but we're going to get ramped up on that again.
Well, it opened again. It opened again yesterday, right? Didn't it open up? They opened up yesterday.
Monday. Yeah. I was there opening day, and everyone was there in their masks shopping, many bags coming out of Louis Vuitton and Hermes. So that's good news for Costa Mesa. In fact, I just got a report yesterday on our tax revenue from the January through March time period. And we didn't take too much of a hit during that time period. So, the great thing about the plaza is that it really feeds to the highest income earners in our county, in the world,
Right.
and they really didn't get hit by the pandemic, so they kept shopping because they couldn't travel, so that was good for us. But yeah, so we're working on our housing element, and literally since 2002 I have wanted to do a visioning for our city. What's the vision? What do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to keep building all this hodgepodge, or do we want to create a plan for the community for the next 50 years? And
Right.
so finally we have a council who believes in a vision plan. And
Right.
so we approved that over the last few weeks, and we're embarking on our housing element, our vision plan. How do we protect our single family neighborhoods,
Mhm.
but provide housing the way that we need it? I mean, I'll tell you, my 93-year-old grandmother lives with us, my 73-year-old mom, and for the last 6 months, we've been trying to find them housing. There's just nothing that they can afford.
Mhm.
It's just not possible. And so we're building an accessory dwelling unit in our backyard. That's
Right.
another change that's happening in the community. And I figure that, my boys, maybe their families might be able to benefit from that. We happen to have a large backyard, so it works for us. But there's a lot of flexibility that we need to have these days, because what we found from COVID is really the extremes in terms of the poverty versus the wealth. And
Mhm.
even all of us that are sort of in the middle, kind of just hanging on by a thread. And then when the world falls out from under you, you really don't have a lot except for your asset of your home to hang on to. So we need to give people more protection of their homes, more rights to their homes, and to be able to use them
Well,
more.
well, and you touch on a couple of things that are definitely, I think every city in Orange County is dealing with. You're dealing with aging population. You're dealing with demands that come from that demographic. These are our parents. I got an 84-year-old dad that we basically are, and dealing with caregivers and what have you, and if you're fortunate enough to be able to sustain yourself in that capacity, because there's not really a lot of insurance that covers it currently,
Right, right.
right? They're starting, but it's not been there for a while. That is a real serious concern. And then the flip side of it, kind of ironically, is that you've got youth that can't afford to stay here
Right.
and basically contribute to the community, whether in terms of leadership or in terms of payroll taxes or sales taxes. And so I'm really happy to hear you say that, because yes, housing is a big part of that solution. And it's almost like you're saying a four-letter word when you say affordable housing in some places, but it is a must. It's a must that we have to address. And without a vision plan, you don't really have a guiding
Right. You're just
destination
trying
or
to
light. You're just kind of, yeah,
spot zoning. Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the things that we're doing is we've entered into an exclusive negotiating agreement with Jamboree Housing Corporation
Yeah,
to
great
build
collaboration.
senior housing at our senior center. We'll take the parking lot. We have a huge parking lot there. We'll
Yeah.
keep the bottom floor all parking, so we won't lose any parking, and then build the housing, stacking it up, 3-story housing there. Now, why would we do that? Well, we have a lot of seniors who are living in homes that they've had since 1969.
Yep.
The homes need to be repurposed, but they can't move out of the homes because they're still paying the taxes from a $20,000 home, right? And now that home is worth $1 million. And so they can't move out of that house because there's no place to go, and they don't want to leave their community. They're rooted here. So
Right.
now we can move people in to quality, affordable housing, and then those homes come up, and then we can start to have younger families move
Moving
back
in.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
and that'll bring the price of housing down a little bit. I don't see housing going down. I mean, if it doesn't go down in a pandemic, let me tell you, housing went up by 50,000 on my street during the pandemic. It was shocking. I couldn't believe it. Somebody sold their house for 50,000 more than any other house sold in the neighborhood during the
Well,
pandemic.
I believe it. I mean, we learned a lesson in '91 where we have not, I think, overbuilt. One,
Mhm.
two. I think we happen to be fortunate enough to live in a very desirable location. 10, 15 miles in from the coast, whatever it is. That those properties are not going to go down, but it does cause a reality that we have to address through what you like, things like what you just proposed. And I think that way we keep also those families together, that we make that an option if they just so desire to basically still contribute. And the familiarity thing is huge, and I don't think a lot of people discuss it. But spending 30-40 years in a location, knowing where everything is, still being healthy enough to drive or get around, you are not going to want to basically pack everything and move somewhere
Right.
too far. And your friends and your social circle, and you and I, you were talking about a minute ago about the importance of social, we're social animals. Yeah, that becomes even more critically important as you get older.
Right. Oh, for sure. And we also have on the horizon over the next few years, Fairview Development Center. The council has approved a plan for the Fairview Development Center site. It's 114 acres. It's an opportunity for us to build a community, one that we would be really proud of, that has affordable, not just rental housing,
Mhm.
but housing that people can buy, first time home buyer housing that's affordable. And I'm talking in the $400,000 to $600,000 range. I remember when we first bought our first house in Costa Mesa in 1997. We paid $200,000 for the house. Okay, that house sold a few years back for $800,000. I mean, it's just the way to be able to move up is to be able to
Right,
have property,
right.
have that equity, and be able to invest in your future. And
Well,
we need to provide that for all members of all sections of our community.
Well, and it's a way to get people invested in the community too. There's there's a personal investment in the community, not just in terms of property, but in terms of just being part of the fabric of the community, which we all benefit from. And that property is a very interesting opportunity. That is almost like one of those unicorns you guys have that isn't really that available anymore close by. Like
Yeah,
this is
right.
right there off harbor. I was always wondering what you guys were going to do with that, and that sounds like a perfect solution where
Yeah,
it's
we have a plan that the council approved. It's it's state-owned property, so we have to keep negotiating with the state about what they want to do with
right.
our community. um, and so we'll keep having those conversations. We're fortunate enough to have a great advocate in Connie Petrie Norris, who's our
Yeah.
assemblywoman,
Hmm.
and we are. We've got that. We've got north of the 405. There's some discussion about how do we maybe build a more urban kind of a development north of the 405. That's still under discussion. We don't know what those discussions are going to end up looking like, but these are big things. We also have on our horizon, this council is all about sustainability and trying to be more protective of the environment. Last night we approved a grant for um, uh, electric vehicle charging stations that we're going to be having now right at City Hall. I'm a huge electric vehicle fan. I think that if we could all get electric vehicles, we'd be doing a lot for our environment.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then, but the cost of electric vehicles are so high. That's
Yeah.
another thing. We've got to get the costs down so that the average person who drives a lot can afford them. And then we hired a sustainability manager. She's going after grants. We're looking at community choice energy. I know that our entire council is very supportive of making our community more walkable and bikeable. And we think
Mhm.
that that has an economic driver impact as well as a quality of life impact. So we've got a lot to work on over the next 2 years. I've got two projects that I want to get done. I've been
What are they?
working on making our flood channels, turning them into multi-purpose trails for 8 years. If I can finish my term on this council and get that project done, I'll be very happy. And then also just sort of beginning and ending our housing element, trying to work on Newport Boulevard, what are we going to do? Are we
Right.
going to be housing? Are we going to be hotels? What are we doing with Newport Boulevard? It's just a hodgepodge, and it has, it's seen its day. We've got to repurpose it.
Well, and you got that bottleneck that happens at the end. I mean, like, so definitely an area that needs to be looked at as
Yeah.
maybe, like a helicopter view, overall master planning.
Mhm.
So tell me about this measure that you guys have that I think you just approved, relevant to go on for the
Oh,
voters
mhm.
for cannabis, because there's only one other place in Orange County where that is legally, retail stores and what have you, and that's Santa Ana. So Costa Mesa, interesting. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, well, we had been working on that before COVID. We had an ad hoc committee, myself, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, and Councilmember Chavez, and we put together a group of industry experts. We met with them by Zoom for several months, getting everyone's feedback, and then we made a recommendation to the council, and we have a ballot measure to allow retail and home delivery in Costa Mesa in the commercial zones. And we have some buffers of sensitive uses, 1,000-foot buffer from schools and parks and playgrounds and
Right.
other sensitive uses. So, and we're estimating, I think they're conservative in their estimates. They're saying 3 million. I know Santa Ana's at 9 at this point. So
Yeah.
I think these are conservative estimates, but regardless, our goal is to have very high-end cannabis retail in the city of Costa Mesa to match our high-end luxury brand on the north part of town in the South Coast Plaza area, and then also to get rid of these rogue dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
We have just such a hard time eliminating the rogue dispensaries because people just think it's legal. They don't know that they're going
Right.
into a shop that's illegal because they think, oh, marijuana is legal. I can go over there and buy whatever, my edible or whatever it is. But so we don't, we just have a hard time. You can't believe, you think that you can just shut some business down. That's just not the case. I mean, it is very, very difficult to shut these places down. You have to have a whole 6 months of evidence. And
Mm-hmm.
even when you shut them down, it's like whack-a-mole. They come in at night, they break the locks, they open up, and people come in. It's like a pop-up or something.
Yeah.
So we've had a
Yeah.
hard time.
Well, and I've heard stories where they just basically reappear under another, doing
Yeah,
business as or
right.
whatever, and is somewhere other part of town. And for those who are listening to this, I've I've done quite a bit of background. You guys obviously have. There used to be a place in Beverly Hills in Barney's of New York called the High End, and it was a retail store at the top. That looked like a high-end jewelry store, right? And there was white glove service and what have you. So it is definitely doable, but I definitely agree with you. I think the biggest benefit of doing something like this is where you basically control these rogue locations, because there's a genuine risk to the community with the
Yes.
products being, it's almost like supplements that are unregulated or things of that nature. And you've got on the consumer side, you've got everybody from people that are very astute and very seasoned in cannabis, because they've been doing it sort of under the radar forever, and there are people that are absolutely new to it. And so they're just walking into an unknown, and yeah, it's happening in your city. So I was actually very excited to see that. I think done responsibly, not only is it economically a boom, but it also is something that it's time, right? And
Yeah,
so I
right.
was
And
really glad.
we have stores that are adjacent to these rogue dispensaries. And, they've got odor coming into their
Yeah,
stores. They have people taking up all the parking. They've got people coming out of cars with like not grocery bags, but plastic bags filled with cannabis and running up into the shop. I mean, it's really dangerous. It's not a safe environment. And we're doing everything we can within the law to shut them down. But once we have a legal process, it'll
mhm.
be a lot easier, because if they don't have, they don't have their business license, they're not permitted, we can then go after the property owners who are allowing this. It'll be a lot easier.
Well, yeah, but right now there's nothing that regulates it, and by putting those regulations in place, then you can enforce them.
Yeah.
Uh, which, by the way, again, also thank you for going back to the masks for a minute. You guys not only mandated masks, but you also enforced them, and you have the ability to do that because you got your own team that can do that, right? Versus other cities are maybe more county based. But I was really thrilled when I saw that sign driving down on Red Hill, you know, and I was like, here it is. It's black and white. You're entering the city. It's like
Yeah.
in those movies when you're entering the city and there's the Kiwanis sign or you have entered the population numbers. Here's this blinking sign that's like, don't even think about it. Wear a mask,
Yeah.
$100 fine.
Well, I have noticed definitely a change when, because we had this law on the books since what, April.
Yeah.
But as soon as we started putting the signage up and really letting people know the education period is over, I think you saw a lot more people wearing their face masks, both in stores and also, I mean, people don't realize, but stores were contacting us and calling the police and saying, we've got these people who refuse to wear their masks coming in. What can we do? They wanted us to have a fine. I mean, I was asked by several restaurants, please do some enforcement, because once you start doing the enforcement, then it'll just become easy for us as a business to enforce.
Yeah, Katrina, that's one of the things that I actually felt was the most unconscionable sort of thing, because you had these businesses that were struggling to hold on. They were doing everything in their power. Their energies are all focused on that. They're trying to bring back their staff. And then now in certain places, we were saying, well, the state mandated masks, but you know what? You're kind of on your own to enforce. And I thought that was such an unfair thing to burden the businesses with when they're so overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
so I mean it wholeheartedly, like for you guys to basically not only mandate because it's the right thing to sound like you're doing, but also to stand behind it and enforce. Yeah, I'm sure you garnered a lot of good sentiment from a lot of your businesses.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but
yeah,
not from some of the anti-mask community. So, they've now started coming to my house. So the last 2 weekends, they've been protesting out in front of my house, much like they did to the health officer. However, I'm a little, I think, tougher skinned than the health officer. She didn't sign up for that. And then last night, we're having our Zoom city council meeting. And there they are in my front yard with their bullhorns yelling about the masks. And you could actually hear it on the city council meeting. It was, I did my best to just try to pretend like it wasn't happening in the background. But yeah,
isn't there,
it's not
isn't
even
there,
from
isn't there?
they're actually from your community. They're from
Oh,
San
oh, oh,
Clemente.
trust me, I know. Okay. And if they're lucky, they don't run into me because I'm like, I cannot even believe, what Kool-Aid those people are drinking. But just from a practicality, and I mean, I've said this to people, I don't care if you believe in masks or don't believe in masks. Okay. The bottom line is you cannot be pro-business and be anti-mask right now because those
Exactly.
businesses need to project an image of safety to draw in people to spend money. And if you're in the way of that, you can't say that you're there for the business owner. You're not,
100% agree. Yeah.
right? And
I
and
think
and
it's anti-business to be against the mask right now.
it
I
is
mean,
anti-business.
because people, whether there's a small group of people who think it's a hoax, there's nothing to see here. Majority of people, super majority of people, either know someone who has had COVID or who has died from COVID or who is helping people who have
Right,
COVID. And so we believe that this is a serious disease and a virus that causes a serious life-changing disease.
right.
Um, and so I'm not going to go into a store that doesn't comply with the social distancing. I have only been to 5 restaurants in 6 months, and I'm somebody who used to go to restaurants probably every day.
Right.
And so the restaurants I'm choosing are the ones that are, plenty of space, you're outside, all the servers are wearing their masks, and you feel like you're safe. You're not going to get COVID by
Hmm.
going and enjoying a nice meal. So like Old Vine Cafe, he's done a great job. He waited until he felt like, the systems were kind of in place. And Mario Morovic in Country Club and
Right.
Playa Mesa, they're doing an excellent job. Now, Mario, he was kind of on the fence at the beginning, but
Mhm.
he was on my recovery team. He became a huge asset to us on our recovery. He's now involved in testing and getting all the restaurant workers tested, because that's another key. We
Right.
got the big testing center at the fairgrounds. For 10 weeks, the mayor's on these calls with the county. Every Friday, we would say, please, we need more testing. We need testing, because the workers, the essential workers, the restaurant workers, grocery clerks, teachers, etc., they need to know if they're not feeling well. They need to know if they have COVID, so they don't go to work and get everybody sick.
Right.
So now we've got that going. We got the masks. I think the numbers, the thresholds are good. I just worry. I hope we can hang on through Labor Day. Labor Day, everyone wants to get together and they're going to get all crazy. I just hope that we don't get too many gatherings going on during Labor Day and kind of move backwards.
I have a feeling that this is definitely something that, I mean, the way that we have adjusted our lives will be with us for a long time. I think from the medical side of things, again, the virus, will be with us for a long time. But I don't know if we're going to see much of a bump other than maybe in certain areas. I don't want to pick on any cities, but you and I know both know some areas that we can name right now that will probably have a little bit of a spike. My concern is more about the kids in the schools.
Yeah.
Right now, because under normal circumstances, that kid basically goes home with influenza or with the flu, and it goes through the whole family. And right now, those families, like in your case, may have actually brought in a multi-generations into their household so they don't stay separated from one another, right? And so it's definitely a time that we're dealing with things differently. But I don't want to lose this thing about the business and the importance of sort of that leadership that you guys are providing to those businesses, because I think we will look back at this time and we will see who actually rose to the occasion. And it may be people we expected would rise to the occasion, and it may be completely surprising people that weren't even on the radar screen that rose to the occasion to basically help people navigate through this. I mean, I was not astounded. I was very pleased to see that sort of 30 restaurants signed up with Agewell, for example, to provide food. And those restaurants now basically sustained themselves through an economic downturn because of, stepping up and being of service to the community. There was a lot of this sort of nonprofit mindset that was happening. And I really hope that continues to happen, because we're all richer for it on many levels, not only financially, I think.
For sure. We, at the beginning of this, because we all have different strengths on our council, and so I worked with our city manager and we kind of divided up the work. So council members, Marr and Reynolds, they started helping on the food distribution drives. So we've had IKEA, Power of One Foundation, the Chargers, a whole variety of businesses supporting food distribution. I mean, we've given thousands and thousands of meals. Power of One Foundation's given their 1 millionth meal during the COVID time period.
Wow.
So our Meals on Wheels program, we activated tons of volunteers that we didn't have before. We increased the number of seniors who are participating on that program by, I think it's almost triple the number of seniors who are now on the Meals on Wheels program. And so that was something where we probably had those seniors in our community that needed the Meals on Wheels, but they just didn't feel comfortable asking. And
Right.
This was the opportunity. And so now we're helping them. And it's not just food. The volunteers, when they go out to their homes, they do wellness checks. They give that social engagement. And I know that there was a lot of seniors who were getting really isolated.
Yeah.
So what we did was we started calling seniors. We called thousands and thousands of seniors.
Katrina, who's the provider? Is that Meals on Wheels Orange County? That used to be senior
It's a
serve,
federal
basically?
program, but it's funded, through federal funding. But the meals are being provided from a whole variety of restaurants, as well as the county program.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I do red carpet interviews for Meals on Wheels Orange County, which used to be Senior Serve at the Grove,
Yeah,
and they
right.
do their Senior
Exactly.
Heroes Award. Right. And so isolation is a killer. And I think we got a taste of that, regardless of age, to be honest with you, to where we now also possibly have opportunities to connect with people on issues that they would have probably not had a feeling for, that now they have a feeling for, such as quality of life. I'm dealing with a lot of people right now in my professional capacity from the design perspective in terms of air quality, like, just inside air quality, and how that, I was astounded. I did some research and it turned out that we spend 90% of our time indoors, and we've never really looked at just the air quality and the filtration systems and the age of equipment and things of that nature. And again, driven by the fact that we need to project a quantifiable safety position. Some of these people that I'm dealing with are looking beyond the mask only and saying, look, we want to be able to tell our clients, we want to be able to tell our customers that we have gone above and beyond to ensure that the air quality and filtration in the space is as controlling of the droplets and the particles as possible.
Right.
And here's what it is. And I could totally see us sort of from a policy perspective starting to incorporate that stuff into our building codes, into our requirements. I mean, I remind people that the way we build and design restrooms and bathrooms right now all came out of pandemics. The materials that we use, the way we basically do them, they all came out of crises. And there will be a lot of things that will manifest themselves out of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The Plaza, talk about ventilation systems. They changed their entire ventilation system so that the germs could get killed more easily. They've really, they have the capital to be able to do that.
Right.
But I have been saying, I don't think the Plaza should have been shut down ever. I feel like the Plaza was a unique shopping center, as shopping centers go in America, where they have hundreds of housekeepers cleaning and disinfecting. They're able to socially distant. They had all kinds of controls on the number of people going in stores. This is before they got, after they got open and then got shut down again.
Right.
And so, I've said, if you're going to go shopping, if you can go to Vaughn's or Target or Walmart or Stater Brothers, you definitely could go to South Coast Plaza. I would think it's a lot safer.
Well, I don't think anybody, I was, when I heard about, we're going to shut down certain things and we're going to, close business and stuff like that, I felt that it was maybe an overreach in a certain way, because it was not sustainable. Now, maybe we needed to do it when we needed to do it as a first step, but no, not for a moment did I think it was a sustainable position. I mean, there's no way we're going to do that. And I agree with you on the Plaza. In fact, the Plaza did something that was very innovative, and I'm just give a shout out to them, is when they basically turned part of their parking structure into almost like buyer booths.
Yep.
Right. And I thought that was, yes, because this was actually an elevated experience that was luxury based, which was right in line with their brand,
right,
but still met the requirements of open air. Right. I thought that was
talk about cutting red tape. I got a call on Wednesday from the Plaza executives. Hey, Mayor, we want you to come down and look at this idea that we have. And I said, okay, should I bring the city manager? Okay, good idea. So the city manager and I come down, and then she decides to bring the planning director. And so we literally hear their pitch for this idea. And I say, well, I don't think the health officer is going to allow you to do this, that, or the other. Let's call him. So we get the health officer on the phone. I tell him what we're planning to do. And he says, no, you can't do that, but you can do this. And I said, okay. And by the weekend, they had it mocked up. By Tuesday, we ratified the ability to move outside and to have that done. I mean, we did it, but in less than a week. Okay.
Well, necessity is the mother of invention, and people that are motivated. I mean, watch out, get out of the way of people that are motivated to find a solution.
They sold a $1.5 million ring in that garage boutique.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in course of doing that, just think about a proof of concept, right? Like that could become a pop-up version, somebody else may take it and do something like that with it. The other person that I thought, and I do want to give him a shout out, is my buddy Amar Santana at Vaca.
Oh yes.
Right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, when everybody was sort of really not whining, rightfully, just being very emotional, passionate, let's just call it what it is, right? And about the fact that their business is shut down, and got to be open, and and they were given an opportunity to open, but then they were going to try to do whatever the minimum they can to open. He actually held back. And I remember talking to him or via text, or I think it was on social media one time. And I said, well, so how's it going? Because I mean, he's got Broadway in Laguna. He's got, I mean, the market at the plaza, at the hall at the plaza just opened.
Open. I was at the opening for that. Yeah.
Right, just open. And
they were just getting rolling too, because they opened right at the end of the holiday season. And
right. And he was all excited. And I remember, you know, he was working on his menu, and the press was starting. He was starting to roll on some press on it. And I said to him, I said, so what's going on? And he goes, you know, I don't want to rush this. And I'm like, okay, tell me why. His first reason he wasn't rushing it was the safety of his employees.
Right.
And
Mark McDonald, I think they're friends actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really found that to be very honorable. I mean, like, we're all facing a crisis. We all really want to get back to, we'll never get it back to that normal, but to some sort of normalcy. And there was things that were more important than just basically getting that register to start ringing. There was other things of value. And I really, that's what I mean by some people that, you know, we will look back and we will see some people by example and how they basically behaved in this. And then you got the people that I'm sorry to say are from my neck of the woods that are, you know, basically harassing people at Mother's Market and things of that nature.
Well, you know, I think there's more people doing good than not. And I always try to find the silver lining in things. I always try to stay positive. I think as the mayor, I mean, it's my job to be the ambassador for the city in a positive way, but also, you know, deal with the serious issues that we have. You know, I grew up as a cheerleader, so I know how to be the cheerleader when necessary, but these are serious issues that we're having. Economic issues. You know, our city was also the first to enact an eviction moratorium. And we did it not just for residential, but for commercial tenants.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We have so many small businesses, and a lot of them restaurants in our community that they're renters, and we didn't want them to lose their business because of that. And then we created business grants. I just got a report today that we had 400 applicants. We've given out almost 200 business grants up totaling $1.2 million already. And so we are really trying to keep these, most of them are using it to pay rent. So the rent is getting paid and the city is paying for the rent. So we kept people in their space, we kept people in their homes, and now we're giving the grants to pay the rent. We also have, we created an item for residential tenant relief, and we're going to be rolling that out here pretty soon too. Because, you know, homelessness and housing is one of our council priorities and addressing, and we don't want people becoming homeless because of COVID. It's easier to care for people, even if they're very, very poor, if they're in a home.
Oh, and in some cases, I mean, whether it's seniors, I mean, I remember, and you know, the homeless issue has been a big thing in Orange County, right? So very recently, I mean, it came to a kind of a head, but I remember looking at it, and there were some astounding statistics, like as far as, you know, what is some of the fastest growing segments of the homeless, and the fact that it was, you know, seniors that were one medical bill away from basically being homeless, or
women,
or like young families and women. I mean, it is definitely an issue that we as a community must address. And to your point, it's a lot easier to basically try to ward that off by correct action or assistance, a hand up, if you will, right? Than to basically then have to deal with it from another point of crisis. I really appreciate taking the time, Katrina, and you know, I'm saddened that I don't live in Costa Mesa, because I definitely vote for you. But
you can join us anytime.
I will, for sure I will, and I know enough people. I will basically be in their bonnets. But no, seriously, I think it's very clear for me sometimes when you encounter leadership, and this is really where the rubber meets the road for me. Yes, it's a crisis, right? And sometimes we have leaders and they're doing the right thing. You've been on council since 2006, and so, you know, it's not like a short duration you've been on there, and you are the same person that you're more seasoned, but you're the same core person. And so, you know, sometimes these crises come along and they really highlight leadership. And I definitely know it when I see it, and I see it in you. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on. I'm glad that we were able to make this happen, and I wish you luck. I don't think you need it, but I wish you luck in your upcoming re-election, and look
Well,
forward
thank
to
you.
staying in touch for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for being a voice and offering opportunities for people to share their experiences, their work, their projects, and thanks for supporting. I think the good public health, economic health policies that we really have to focus on these next couple months, so that we can all move into 2021, and let's just put 2020 behind us.
I
Move
think
into 2021.
I think there's going to be a lot of good learning that happens in 2020.
I think so.
And I think every once in a while a reset is not a bad thing. And so I'm like you, I kind of want to find the silver lining in something, but with a practicality. And I think we are being offered a reset
Yeah.
on some things and a little room to actually think versus just be constantly running. So with that, I will wish you a good evening, and I will be in touch. I'm sure we'll connect at some point. But thank you again, Katrina, very much for being on the show.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Good night.